What's going on, football fans? It's me, J.R. Clark, back again with another Pound for Pound ATO Live. Joined as always by my co-host Jonathan Older. Jonathan, what's going on, brother?
Man, it is a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Feeling better than I did yesterday, so
There you
that's
go.
always a plus. And ready to talk some Falcons football.
Me and you both. Yeah, like, as things are winding up and we're getting getting into the summer, so to speak. Um, we're getting King's messing with me. Says y'all can't have no more time off like this, man. I was like, dang, no pound for pound. I'm sorry, King. I had to go. I didn't, went camping, man. Had a good time. Nick says, I hope you had fun camping in JR. He missed y'all. Everybody needs a break from life.
Yep.
Yes, yeah, everybody does need a break, and it was a lot of fun. We had a good time. Lord blessed us with some good weather. It only rained on us like on a week that it was supposed to rain pretty much every day. Like it was that typical Georgia summer where in the
Mhm.
afternoons you had anywhere from a 30 to a 60% chance of rain wherever you were. We got real lucky and did not get rained on until we were packing up to come home. So
Nice.
that was pretty slick. That was a good time. But anywho, y'all didn't come here to listen to me talk about my escapades on the shores of West Point Lake in Lagrange,
That
Georgia.
that is BS. They want to hear all about it, every detail. Don't skip anything.
Well, let's see. No, I'm just kidding. But no, like I said, we got a handful of things to get into today and talk about it, so we might as well just go ahead and jump on in. So, as the title suggests, the Falcons wrap up and break for the summer. They don't officially break until tomorrow, but tomorrow is what is typically the family day, where all the family members get to come to the facility and all that jazz. That's where you get all them cute photos of the kids running across the fields
Oh yeah.
and like yesterday was pretty much media day, or at least for the most part, from what we were seeing. Like y'all saw, like I think it was Ray McLeod's hair was this daggone big, which was awesome. Awesome looking. So
Yeah.
that was pretty cool. But today was the only like real practice, and it wasn't by accounts. It wasn't even a like full practice. Light week. I think it was more of mandatory like medical checks for some guys. Like you had Grady Jarrett there today,
hmm
David Onyemata. Those guys haven't necessarily been. Um, Obviously, neither one of those guys have participated, and I'm not even 100% sure if Grady was there for most even of the OTAs because he was
Probably
just
not.
rehabbing. If he was there, it was just for treatment, and that was about it. Uh, so let's get into some of the more interesting topics. Now, I have okay, get my stuff together here. So, one of the bigger battles that have been brewing so far in the early part of this off season and this spring part, I guess you could say, is the um, cornerback two position. The Falcons did not draft corner and did not bring in any big name corner to
Right.
compete across from AJ Terrell. Now we thought that they might, if nothing else, draft a corner because might give themselves, leeway for AJ Terrell going into, a contract year, so to speak. But they didn't do that. So they brought in guys like Kevin King, who have been out of football for a little while, Antonio Hamilton, um, who's been a journeyman, been in the league for a while, but has just been a journeyman everywhere he's gone. And then before we jumped on today, the Falcons announced that they released. Oh, I'm gonna find it. It's gonna be good. Once I do, it's gonna be. I'm gonna even seem like I might be a professional. Maybe, maybe not. Um, Crap. Now I'm not gonna be able to find it. Oh, here it is. Here it is. The Falcons signed Harrison Hand and released Anthony Sao or So
Sure.
Sao.
Okay.
And I said, sure, why not? Why not? Right? Like I don't know who Harrison Hand is. So I click on their little article because it's what you do, right? You got to find out about it. Hand last played during 2022 when he appeared in 4 games with 1 start for the Chicago Bears. In 3 seasons, Hand has played 27 games with 2 starts. He's recorded 24 tackles, 4 pass breakups, and an interception, which came against the Saints quarterback Drew Brees in 2020. Fifth round pick who has been in and out of the league. This is depth at best.
All right. Camp
So
body, if nothing else.
that's what I'm saying. Like it's depth at best, can't body. So it really looks like the battle for QB2 is going to come down between Clark Phillips III and Mike Hughes, is what it's sounding like so far. That's been noted by both Daniel Flick of SI and Tori McElhaney of the Falcons media. So let's see. I'm trying to get to where.
Yeah, Mike Hughes, at least today,
Mhm.
uh, you know, Mike Hughes was serving as the number 2 cornerback behind AJ Terrell. Richie Grant was in there at safety with Jesse Bates, and D. Alford was your nickelback whenever those sets were out there. So, um, and second team Clark Phillips was out there with Anthony Johnson. So, yeah, it seems like at least to the coaches, that's where the competition is right now. Is you got Mike Hughes as your number 2 for now, and maybe he outright wins the job, but right now he's the number 1 guy, at least that's based on what we've seen at practice. With Clark Phillips kind of nipping at his heels.
Right. It's been like, yeah, during the OTA parts, there's been like a lot of strong reports about Clark Phillips and about DeMarco Helms in the safety position. Now, today, it was Richie Grant was up first to bat, but in an earlier article written by Daniel Flick, Helms apparently has impressed, built off of his late season surge and is continuing to build off that. I was wondering where y'all they don't emerge out of their cave. So they said, "Out of your Falcon mind." I'm glad to see y'all. I think they're going
What's
to be
going on,
on.
guys?
Yeah, they're going to be on live after us. Well, I say after us. We're going to finish up around 8 or so, and that's when they're going to kick off. So if y'all haven't had enough Falcons talk by then, y'all should definitely jump over there and join. Let's see.
But
Oh,
yeah, apparently Helms has uh, been there for most of the OTAs and minicamp. He's been the kind of number 1 strong safety,
right.
opposite Bates most off seasons.
Which which makes sense in some of like the early like reading I've done, like early like in the way this defensive scheme may be deployed. Helms makes a little bit more sense with his, sure tackling ability. Probably gives them a little bit better um, that hybrid safety linebacker type.
Yep.
So I'm glad to see. I mean, it sucks that in a sense that Richie isn't taking another step forward that because he being such a high draft status and a second round pick, but um, where there's a door open, I'm glad somebody else is stepping up and you know making some moves as far as that is concerned.
Well, at this point uh with Richie Grant, or just regardless of whatever position it is, we're at this point now where we're probably not going to see a lot of huge shakeup unless something dramatic happens. We're probably not going to see a huge shakeup between now and training camp starting in 6 weeks.
Hmm.
So who we have is who we have at the moment. Ooh, we lost me.
Right. No, that's.
Can you guys still hear me?
Oh, you're breaking up. You're getting like you have came rushing all in at once. So maybe it'll
Oh,
level out.
what about now?
We're getting there. We'll keep working with it and see what happens. But no, unless there's, if you look out on the free agent market, there's not a ton of like big names out there, as far as in any particular position at this point. So unless they make some big swing to trade for somebody right now, what we have is pretty much what we're going to have. I mean, there are some intriguing names, especially like the edge rusher position. You could maybe bring Calais Campbell back, or if you wanted to kick the tires on Carl Lawson, he's out there. And same thing with Yannick Ngakoue. Ngakoue didn't sign until closer to the start of training camp last year, so it might be the same deal this year. But no, there's not any there isn't any major splashes left, I don't think. So right now it's okay. We're going to be trying to make do with what we have, right?
Yep.
At least this year. So they seem to think that the biggest need was on the interior of the defensive line by bringing in Dorless and Trice and Rook through the draft, and also bring re-signing Catavia Street and Eddie Goldman. So they showed you where they felt like they needed to address, and they felt like the at least from the tape that they had and the layover of Jerry Gray, that the secondary should be able to continue making strides from last year, right?
Yes.
Like, because we didn't really lose anybody major out of the secondary. So it should just be able to pick up right where they left off. It doesn't sound like much of that is going to change. Plus, considering the brain trust that you have of head coach, defensive coordinator, and defensive assistant, or whatever his defensive title, assistant head coach / defense of Jerry Gray, all these guys are defensive back gurus.
Yep.
That's their calling cards. So if there's ever a group,
yeah, that's the reason why I've just kind of not been like, a lot of people worried about getting DBs. Should we sign another DB? Why are we not signing another DB? Why did we not draft one of the DBs? Like, there's so much DB coaching knowledge on the training staff that if they didn't feel if they looked at what we have and they were obviously comfortable with what they have, to the point where they don't worry about going out and getting anybody else, I'm just gonna let it run and we'll see how it goes.
yeah, basically. And so there was an interesting quote coming out of from Raheem Morris's presser today. Nick says, Nick Bangler's like, Bijan, another CMC, talking about Christian McCaffrey. I think so. Yeah, they would be foolish not to at least attempt to try to do some of those things, like take inspiration, with Bijan's skill set. And I think it was asked today. Somebody asked Raheem about it, and his quote, if I can pull it up, we're gonna see here if I can find it. No, what's the new beat writer's name? Do you remember?
I do not even remember.
I'll see if I can get it from Tori. No, she didn't have it. Let's see, William. Hey, if any of y'all are on the Twitter, William McFadden is back with the on the Atlanta Falcons staff, so that's good to hear. Here it is. I got it. It says Raheem Morris responds to Bijan Robinson's comments recently about being a running back who can do a bunch of different things, in the vein of Christian McCaffrey. And his answer was, get the ball to Bijan as much as you can. So, and a lot of people felt like, as always, took an opportunity to take a shot at the previous staff. But yeah, no brainer. Like, do what you can to get the ball into Bijan's hands. And good things
by the
should
way,
happen.
yeah, absolutely. That's it should be a no brainer. Mark Raimondi
Mark,
is
that's his name.
Raimondi.
Yeah. Come on. Huh. Why am I know I follow him. Oh well. It's not the end of the world. I don't really necessarily. This makes for great radio. Me searching Twitter to confirm.
Absolutely.
And give
That's what this show is built on, man.
That's right. Built on me searching Twitter, going, oh God. Remember, JR, please remember. Use your brain. All right. So Atlanta's the defensive rotation for what seemed like the first time in a full install. This is from Daniel Flick's article during open viewing portion. Third round rookie edge Braylon Trice worked with the second team defense. So that's good to see. Before we got to training camp, it seems like he's starting to move up a little bit because he had been with during the spring third and fourth teams. Atlanta's defensive ends consisted, and this is the only thing that truly like kind of concerns me right now is what our defensive end, because I'm going to read this off and you tell me if this inspires a ton of confidence in you. Atlanta's defensive ends consisted of James Smith-Williams and Zach Harrison. Now, remember, defensive end in a 3-4, more like DTs. Okay. While its edge consistency featured Trice, Lorenzo Carter, and Arnold Ebiketie. At defensive tackle, you had Taquan Graham, Eddie Goldman, Rugeroro, and Contavious Street rotated with the first and second string. So, and Tony Wright's commenting on this as well. He's saying, from what I've heard, Zach Harrison will be a starting 3-4 D end with Grady Jarrett as the other starting 3-4. More, yes, because James Smith-Williams is not a starter. He's a rotational piece for you. So it wouldn't surprise me if snap one of week one was David Onyemata at nose, Grady at D end, Zach Harrison at the other D end, bracketed by Lorenzo Carter and Arnold Ebiketie.
Yeah, that seems like the most likely starting front line that I can think of.
Right. And I'm gonna go ahead and call it. That's not, like I said, that's not like super inspiring. And I'm not saying it's bad.
Yeah,
it
doesn't have the flash.
Right.
You don't have a big name other than Grady Jarrett. David Onyemata is a really good player, but his name's not out there, right? So he doesn't have that splash factor. And Grady Jarrett is a really, really good player. People know who he is, but even he, I don't think, gives you that splash factor that if we were to have gotten some of the pass rushers we were trying to get, that would have made this whole line look even better.
Right.
But at the end of the day, we don't know how it's going to fare. It could be really, really, a really, really good line, and the splash is there. We just don't know it yet.
Right. That's why I say, like, this is a defensive line that could easily make me by midseason eat crow. As far as, especially if they get schemed up well, if they're bringing that, if they're able to consistently get that one-on-one matchup, with that penny front is able to do. At least that's the idea, So if they're able to get that one-on-one matchups across the board, and by doing so free up, or if Ebiketie, if it's more advantageous for him and he's able to beat his guys, if they do free up some free runners from the linebacking core of Anderson, Ellis, and Landman, which it sounds like they have all that core of those three linebackers have been mixing and matching real well depending on what they want to do.
Yeah.
They've gotten both Landman and Anderson out there, Anderson and Ellis and Landman. So it seems like it's been a real good uh, mix up so far in that linebacking core. um, let's see. A little bit of good news on the other side of the ball. The running back we took late, Jace McClellan, returned to practice today.
Nice.
First time he has practiced from an undisclosed draft injury. So that was good to hear. Now, Caleb McGarry was at practice with fellow linemen. He did not participate in this session. Now, they don't have to disclose anything, but it is interesting that he was there, but didn't practice. But it doesn't sound like there's too much to read into it. Um, so I wonder if it was like just some
I mean,
precautionary or if they just wanted to look at somebody else, so to speak.
well, okay. So if that was the case, if that the latter of the two was the case, that they just wanted to look at somebody else, he probably still would have played some, right? Or practiced some.
Right.
Here, he didn't practice at all. He was wearing a black and gray hat and a t-shirt.
Yep.
So
Right.
to me, that screams they saw like something popped up with him, whether it was soft tissue or something along those lines, and they were holding him out for precautionary reasons. No reason to put him out there last day and have something, and then now he's got to do rehab over the next 6 weeks. If it's precautionary, you let him sit. Then he has 6 full weeks of resting that up to keep that from getting worse. And that's what it sounds like to me. It sounds like he wasn't able to go for whatever
Mhm.
reason, and they brought in Storm Norton and Tyler Vrabel um, to kind of play in his absence.
Yeah, and it sounds like those two have really got it locked up as far as the reserve tackle, swing tackle type positions. So Storm Norton, when he had to play last year, filled in very well for McGarry, in a sense that you had people last year saying, okay, well, McGarry can sit on the bench, you know, but which was which was interesting. We did get to hear from Grady Jarrett today, so that was cool.
Yep.
Says that he's feeling good. He said he's done a lot of work to get to that point, and says he feels like he should be full go by training camp, or at least that's his goal. He says he wants to say his goal to be as close to 100% as possible by the start of training camp in July. He said his early reps in camp may look a little different than most, as the Falcons want to get him acclimated again. So he'll probably start on the opposite field. If we were able to view camp, it would be on the other. He'd probably be away from everybody.
Defense a lot of times is just in general is away from other people, but or at least that's the way it used to be when they had the two fields. Like they had one field close, and then they had one field away from the fans. Where I think the last season or two they actually changed it up so that the two fields were side by side, so you can watch them both.
Mm-hmm.
So that may be where he's at going forward. But another thing, not necessarily in a does he have to watch out for his job thing, was Kyle Hinton actually took some snaps at left guard, with the ones in
Oh yeah,
place
yeah.
of
Bergeron.
Matthew Bergeron, who was active. So this is kind of the other side of that, which is McGarry. Some people might look at it and be like, "Oh, is he in danger?" I don't think McGarry's in danger of losing his job unless he plays absolutely horribly. But
Mm-hmm.
this on the other hand, Matthew Bergeron was actively participating in the session, and they still took him out, put in Kyle Hinton in his spot. But the way that Flick comes across, talks about this, Raheem Morris has praised Bergeron before the session. There was not a competition brewing or anything like that, but he says it does feel indicative of Hinton standing in the room should bode well for him come roster cut down day. So
Right.
that may be your swing guard
Yeah, that may
backup.
be like one of your, they wanted to get a look at him and how he, performed.
Mhm.
Tony Wright brings up a good point here. He's talking about, and I'm going to kind of use his comment to springboard into something else. So J.R. Jonathan, I believe the 6th-round pick, nose tackle, defensive tackle, Zion Loge, is in a good position learning from veterans, nose tackle, David Onyemata and Eddie Goldman. Yes, his name has come up a time or two, which anytime a 6th-round pick is talked about this early, it's a good sign for the most part. But I'm going to use this comment to springboard. Just because you haven't heard somebody's name doesn't always mean it's a bad thing. At least, this early on. And I'm talking about Brandon Dorless at this point. Like me and you both were kind of scouring the reports from Torrey McElhaney and Daniel Flick, and his name hasn't come up much, but that doesn't mean that he's struggling or anything like that.
Mhm.
It just he may just be where everybody thinks he should be. So therefore it's not, noteworthy, so to speak.
Right.
But he's a name, Dorless, and like they took these 3-4 D linemen in this draft, which what they felt like was a reason, like maybe it was a youth movement or what have you. So I'm going to be interested to see, like, once camp hits, where does how does he fit in? Where does he fit in at? So
Yeah, I'm super excited. Like I can't wait for preseason because I want to see Braylon Trice. I want to see Dorless. I want to see
I want to see these
I
guys.
want to see Zion Logue. I want to see I want to see these guys and see like what they potentially could Rook or Ruru. I want to see him. Like I want to see McClellan. I want to see all of these guys. And we're gonna probably get an extended look at like Michael Penix.
Right.
So like there's actually quite a lot to look forward to come preseason. So I'm actually like really looking forward to it. Um, and yeah, it's I'm just really looking forward to that. So, but I have been on the lookout for like Brandon Dorless mentions. Really, I think this was kind of one of the first times outside of just them saying, "Hey, he was out there," but like Braylon Trice, like his name. But again, I don't necessarily think that's especially in a camp where you have a Michael Penix, where that's going to kind of overshadow a lot of other things. Like a lot of eyes are going to be on that, and that and are going to be drawn to that, and so you're understandably going to probably get less eyes on your 6th-round defensive tackle, nose tackle pick, your 3rd, 4th, 5th round picks. Those guys are just not going to garner
A ton of
the attention that a Michael Penix is gonna garner. So
right. And let's see. David Breland's asking about how's Bertrand been. I haven't really heard his name being called out. So with guys that far down, no news is good news. Plus, you're probably not going to, like, Bertrand is going to make his bones to begin with on special teams.
yes.
So with
Yeah,
not
if he's gonna make the team, it's gonna be on special teams.
right, exactly. And Tony's right. Dorless and Aurora will be playing like rotational snaps. Yes, for sure. So,
Yeah.
but I still want to see what they look like when they're in the game. These are the things that I'm going to be looking for when preseason rolls around.
Yep.
John Higgins says, "Hey guys, sorry I'm late. It's all good. It's all good."
Hey man,
He says, "What's hot? The weather outside. It's
the weather
sunny."
outside, and you are for joining us today. So.
There you go. No, we're just wrapping up the spring activities, the OTAs, the mini camps, and getting going in that aspect. Let's see. I'm trying to think of if there was the one thing that I did find interesting were some of the comments over the past couple of days from guys like Drake London in talking about Kirk Cousins. And you can definitely tell for Drake London, a guy who the last 2 seasons has played with, a mixed bag at quarterback, like having freaking Kirk Cousins back there it sounds like it's a breath of fresh air for him.
Yeah.
Talking about, oh, this, a guy who knows like what he's doing. He's able to, communicate the plays and what's going on and getting guys like he has a command that comes with 13 years of experience in the NFL.
Yep.
And you can definitely tell, at least that's what I garnered from it, that was almost reassuring for a guy like Drake London.
Yeah, I mean, this will be the first time was like for Drake London. I mean, now Kyle Pitts, he at least had Matt Ryan 1 year.
Right.
Okay. Drake London hasn't had that. He's had journeyman
QB.
quarterbacks. He's had rookie quarterbacks who were not super great in their offenses that they were in. And so if he was messing, that's the thing that you probably the one of the major things you miss when you don't have a Matt Ryan anymore, or you don't have a Kirk Cousins, or you don't have that veteran, like really knowledgeable quarterback, is those guys, for one, know how to pick up offenses pretty quickly. And the amount of knowledge that they have can compensate for especially young guys who, when it comes to now, they got to learn a new offense.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Probably new, just new nomenclatures and all that stuff. So a play gets called. He runs out to where he's trying to, go through the play and make sure he understands exactly where he's got to go and what route he's got to go. And he gets out there and maybe he's just a couple yards not where he needs to be. A guy like, the quarterbacks we had the last couple of years may or may not notice that, because they've got so much other stuff swimming in their head, trying to, look at the coverages. What does the coverage look like? Is it man? Is it zone? Is it some combination of the two? And all this other stuff that they may not necessarily notice that he's not exactly where he needs to be. And if he's not exactly where he needs to be, running the route exactly where he needs to run the route, then the whole play kind of gets, discombobulated.
100%. And I think and also I think there was a quote today from Drake London, who rightfully so coming into this season is, solid wide receiver 1 for the Atlanta Falcons. So he's garnering that kind of attention from the media. People were asking him about the scheme, and, with what I can only imagine would be a smile on his face, talking about they're going to air the ball out. I mean, it's the that's going to be a stark difference from what he's had the past 2 seasons. Without trying to like dump on or take shots, this was, by all stretches and every way you want to quantify it, a run first team the past 2 years with Drake London on the team, and he's done well as a rookie. But I fully expect his production to go up, be like that, as long as he can grasp what he's being asked to do, which I'm sure he can. But this, you have to keep in mind, if it looks a little rough to begin with, this is the first time in his professional career he's had to switch, offensive schemes. Now, I don't know how many times he had to do it in college. He played at USC. I don't keep up with their coaching, carousel that they've had. I know Lincoln Riley's there now, but I don't know the crossover. You know what I'm saying? But then the same goes for Kyle Pitts. A lot of the clips that you've seen be leaked out not leaked out, that's not the right way to say it, be posted by the social media team is of Kyle Pitts catching a ball and making a move. And, they're wanting to, I mean, let's just be real. In a sense, Terry Fontenot is still having to justify that pick. You know what I'm saying? You picked a tight end at number 4 overall. So, and in the past 2 years hasn't been all that great for him. So it doesn't surprise me that they're still trying to go, hey, y'all remember that Kyle Pitts guy? he's really good.
Well, yeah, and like I said, it's a dual purpose, and I've said it on here before. I think the reason why you saw it, we haven't seen it as much lately, but the reason why I think that was hammered on early on is, for one, yeah, there is probably some amount of we this guy was a premium pick. We want to make sure that we're pushing the premium pick. We're trying to justify however you want to look at it. But I think at the end of the day, the reason why, and that's why I can see it coming from the Falcons. But I think when you start hearing, from other sources outside the Falcons who are paying attention to what Kyle Pitts is doing, that's a lot more of a redemption arc kind of deal. And I think Drake London, if he just does better than he did last year, which we expect him to, then that's going to look great. But I don't think anybody would be surprised by it. I think with a couple of years of being down after his initial rookie season, you get him if he comes out and shows out this year. That's a major talking point.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's the reason why you're getting so much on him. So.
Yeah, Dre Murphy says, "Yes, sir. My dog, my man Kyle freaking Pitts, the unicorn, looking hella good, catching passes from Captain Kirk Two Chains." Says Cousins reminds me of catching passes from Matty Ice his rookie year. And I think that's what everybody's hoping for, right?
Yeah.
Kyle Pitts included. Now the quote of the day came from, and rightfully so. I thought this was great when I read it. But the quote of the day came from Raheem Morris talking about Drew Dahlman. And I bring this up because I know in the past you have been like a Drew Dahlman like advocate, which rightfully so. So this will put a feather in your cap there, John. Says Drew Dahlman is just a psychopath. Morris said. He says you love that about him. He's got two options in life. He could either be a good football center or, man, I'd be worried about him. So, and that's good to hear because, like, his initial, when he first initially got, put into the lineup, it was worrisome. Bowling snaps back and getting bowled over himself at times. But it sounds like last year, obviously, he came on really strong, played really well, and it sounds like that has continued even in this new scheme. That I believe marries some of the things that, like, there's a lot of things that are going to look similar than what we did last year, and maybe to some folks' dismay. But you still have Dwayne Ledford here as our O-line coach and run game coordinator, because for as much crap as we throw about the lack of QB play, the run game didn't leave anything to be desired. Not as far as like efficiency. Yeah, you could be.
It definitely there. It didn't quite get back to what we saw the year before that. So
No.
2022, we didn't quite get back to the running game that we had in 2022, and I was kind of disappointed with that. But
well, I think part of the issue, and we can talk about however we want to slice it up, and either way, you can look at it as the coaches not doing their job correctly. You had 3 guys you were trying to feature, and you really, like, you shouldn't have. In a sense, like, you can say however you want to. Oh, I didn't want to overload, Bijan, who's currently on NFL Network right now, but talking about, getting led all rookies, but only led all rookies with 974 rushing yards. Like, again, same deal with the Kyle Pitts pick. You pick an offensive weapon high like that, and what's the word? What I'm looking for? Like, the common opinion or common thought process would be, you pick an offensive weapon high, I'm going to make it a focal point of my offense.
Yeah.
And you do that 3 years in a row, and now somebody's getting left out. You see what I'm saying? And then you had a guy like Tyler Algier who performed extremely admirably, like really good, as a rookie himself. And now you're like, oh well, I don't want to lose this guy's production. And again, it just ends up being too muddied, right?
And I
Um,
th- I think you have to go with the philosophy of go with who's hot,
right.
right? I'm not
Mhm.
saying you don't try to design some of the offense around having Bijan back there. By all means, do that. He is a weapon, not could be a weapon. He is a weapon. We know he is. But at the end of the day, if he's having an off day and Algier is eating him up, then you
Let
go
me.
with the hot hand.
Yep.
And you for that day you featured Tyler Algier. Okay, for that game, maybe for what there's who knows, it could be a snow game, it could be a rain game, it could be any number of reasons why he's the better guy for that particular matchup, that particular team that we're going against, whatever the case may be. But he's just straight up having a better day than Bijan is. And if that happens, okay, you don't try to force Bijan. You go with who's hot right then.
And yeah,
All
there
right.
was like,
And then the next week you start out, you do the same thing. You has it who doesn't,
hmm
and then you go from
uh,
there.
exactly. And I think there was something that I don't know if it's necessarily like a shot at the previous staff, but the idea that, oh, well, Bijan's a running back first. I feel like those comments were made like maybe they were trying to, have Bijan do too much in his rookie season, in a sense.
Mhm.
So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with him, especially after the CMC comments. Um, if they take a page out of, as something me and you highlighted a few weeks back, if they go and look in the well of, um, you know, the Rams offense and what they did when Sean McVay first got there with Todd Gurley, I think that would be a masterful way to use Bijan, and could make him a terror, especially if we are airing it out as much as I think we're going to. Uh, Bijan could be that outlet that gets good chunks, the little dump offs and swing passes, because everybody's worried about the wide receivers running upfield that we didn't have last year. Everybody last year, all they had to do was load the box because you didn't really feel like you had anything, the quarterback to threaten it, nor the receivers to really threaten it. Well,
Yeah,
this year, you should definitely have the quarterback to threaten it. If Pitts is back to his rookie season and Drake takes the next step, and then you have the complementary pieces of Darnell Mooney, Ray McLeod, and Rondell Moore, you
hmm
should have the speed to then make that more threatening,
yeah.
and
Make it a
hopefully,
problem.
right, and hopefully then produce lighter boxes for a more consistent running game. Because when you talk about the Rams, you talk about Puka Nakua and you talk about Cooper Cup and you talk about Matthew Stafford, but that run game still is a major part, is still an engine that drives, that bus. And I don't think that the run game is going to get forgotten here, because if it was, I don't think you would have promoted Dwayne Ledford. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Because like you promoted Dwayne Ledford, to run game coordinator, I think to help boost and assist and to keep the run game going, but be able to then accelerate it, turbocharge it with the pass game. Um, David says, Tyler Algier better get used week one. We need to pound the Steelers. Oh yeah, no, we need definitely, like, Tyler Algier should not be a man forgotten in any way, shape, or form. I actually think you have a luxury of having a good running back tandem, both on rookie deals, uh,
yeah.
which is a boon to me. Let's see here. Um,
Um,
hmm. What you got?
Yeah, I saw some. Where was it at?
Dre, like my Drew Dahlman talking about bowling the ball back and then getting bowled over. I
Oh,
thought
here it was.
he did it pretty good. What you got?
King 7 was like Algiers' load will go down a lot this season. I feel, and next year he's gone. I hope not. I hope he's not gone next year. Because for one, we still got at least one more year with him on his rookie deal.
Right. Like he may not be if Bijan takes the lead role the way we expect him to be, I don't think Tyler Algier will be retained, especially with the fact that you can draft a backup or a running back B almost every year in the 4th, 5th round, as we did this year with Jace McClellan. You can draft one of those guys almost every year. So if Bijan makes the progression that we think he's going to make, no, I don't think we retain Tyler Algier, which will be sad. He'll probably end up in Pittsburgh with Arthur Smith if he's still there by that time. But I don't think that they'll just walk away from him while he's on his rookie deal. I don't think there's any point in that, especially with it being a 5th round back. Like, it's not like he's getting paid a ton anyway.
Right, exactly. And maybe Jace McClellan is a guy that we see a lot of out of this rookie season. If he shows some this year and next year, then yeah, you let as much as I really like him, and on top of that, if Bijan takes progresses how we hope he does, then yeah, Algier is the odd man out. Jace McClellan becomes the backup guy. He becomes your Algier essentially, and then
Right.
And then you draft another guy in probably the 4th, 5th round, and hope he becomes that guy. So
exactly, and that's how you do the running back too. Bradley says Tyler Algier is our version of Michael Turner, a very good back who lost his job to a great back. Which is the potential, right? And it's a good problem to have. But like I said, if if the career trajectory of Bijan keeps the track that it's on, I don't see where we, bring Algier back unless there's just absolutely no market for him. But I can't see a back that had 1,000 yards in his rookie season and in a situation that he's in, not have a market, come time for him to get paid.
Oh yeah, no, he'll play in the league for a good 8 to 12 years.
Yeah, I was thinking, 8 to 10. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, like so it all depends on like how if he goes somewhere after Atlanta and becomes a starter and gets kind of run into the ground, probably closer to 8. If he goes somewhere and he's in a more running back by committee kind of deal, then and he doesn't have quite the workload, then yeah, he could probably make it to 12 years, I would say, but or he could be closer to that. But yeah, that's what I foresee from him, and yeah, he could end up being somebody's, Michael Turner type of pickup later on in his career. So we'll see how that works out.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely will. But until then, I hope that they. I like the idea of the fact that we should have good, consistent production from the running back position, regardless of who's in there. And I think that does nothing but be a boon for us in the run, in that side of the ball. Let's see. Is there any? I'm trying to think. John H says, if Pitts isn't a Pro Bowl from this year, is he a bust? That's an interesting question. I don't know if I put like labels on Pro Bowls, but you could say if he has a Pro Bowl caliber season.
Yeah, because Pro Bowl too often is just a popularity contest.
Right.
Either guys who have been in it for many years, even if they have a down year, they still get put in the Pro Bowl because of the name.
Exactly.
So I'm not going to worry too much about whether or not he makes the Pro Bowl. at the end of the day, we're gonna whether he makes Pro Bowl or not, we're gonna know how good or not he is on that field based on how what we see every Sunday or
Right.
Monday or
And that's
Thursday or whatever it is.
yeah, and that's the thing to me is if he is having what we feel like is a Pro Bowl caliber season, I don't think he has to necessarily have that, but if he's just another tight end, if he's not making big impactful plays, because he doesn't necessarily have to have 1,000 yards, because everybody thinks pretty highly of TJ Hawkinson, right? But I don't think Hawkinson, let's see, even with Kirk Cousins, because that's the reason why I pull him up, I don't think he has. Yeah, last year, 2023, he had almost 1,000 yards on 95 receptions. In
Yeah.
2022, he had, which you were still, TJ Hawkinson's a really good tight end. Really would like to have him on my team. In 2022, he only had 60 receptions for 519 yards and 3 touchdowns. So, we all like George Kittle, right? Let's see. There he is. I did good by not actually spelling Georgia. But take last year, he just barely got over 1,000 yards, like 1,020 yards with 6 touchdowns.
Yeah.
So
there's only like less than 5, I would guess, tight ends in the league on a yearly basis that you're probably going to see eclipse 1,000 yards. I mean, you're going to have the Travis Kelce's of the world. I'm trying to think of the next guy.
Well, that's the reason why I was like, I'm going with the big names, like Travis Kelce. Obviously, he's gotten his, he's the main receiving option in KC. So Travis Kelce, George Kittle, TJ Hawkinson, those guys. And like last year, Kittle got what, 765 yards, and he got a lot of touchdowns. So if Pitts turns into like a touchdown machine, I think that would be amazing. I don't think I would consider him a bust. Now I agree, John. They're not, and that's what I was referring to earlier. All those guys weren't high draft picks.
So
Nobody has been as high as as Pitts.
Yeah,
so
right, but like here are the top 5 tight ends from 2023 receiving yardage wise.
Mhm.
Top 5. Travis or George Kittle was number 1. I'll give the yards in a moment. So you had George Kittle number 1, Travis Kelce 2, Evan Ingram 3, TJ Hawkinson 4, Sam Laporta 5.
Right.
All right, you start with Kittle. He was the leader in yardage last year. His yardage was 1,020.
Right.
All right. Travis Kelce, who many consider to be like the best tight end in the NFL, 984.
Right.
963 for Evan Ingram, 960 for TJ Hawkinson, 889 for Sam Laporta, which, I mean, that dude's good. David Njoku, who many people are like, this could be the guy that ends up kind of being the next best
big
tight
deal,
end. Yeah. And he's 882. So, like, people that are like, oh, the dude needs to have like 1,200 yards, 1,300 yards, whatever. Like, as a tight end, that like, if you get to 1,000 yards, whether you're a rookie or not, is quite the accomplishment.
Right. Now, I will say this. I agree with John Air, as far as like touchdowns. Yes. Like I want what I would consider a successful, like not busty type season is let's, can Kyle Pitts get to that 8 to 10 touchdown range? Would be
the only guy that did that last year, Sam Laporta.
How many did he have?
10.
10.
Everybody,
yeah, because I'm looking at Kittle. Like Kittle averaged like 5, 2, 6, 11. He had last year was Kittle's like crazy breakout in a sense of touchdowns.
Travis Kelce had 5. Like,
that's crazy.
David Njoku had 6. Cole Kmet 6. Mark Andrews 6. Hunter Henry 6.
Let's get Kyle Pitts. I will say is not. will have a great season. I think he'll have a great season, honestly. And I would consider it a success if he gets 4 to 6 touchdowns. Because
Yeah,
that would put him
like
on pretty much on par with what you would get, right?
yeah,
King says,
if he can get 5 or 6 touchdowns, give me anywhere between 7 to 900 yards. That
mhm,
is a really, really good season for a tight end. Anything more than that, yardage or touchdowns wise, is like cherry on top.
right. Uh, King 7 says Pitts gets 700 yards, 8 touchdowns. That's cool with me. He doesn't need 1,000 yards. Give me 8 to 10 touchdowns. And he'll be extremely happy. That's what I think is like if we can get that kind of production, and you saw like a lot of the clips that you did get to see, of Pitts was him working on that red zone, and I think you have a much better, like I said, you got a much better trigger man this year. So as long as Kirk Cousins stays healthy and isn't bit by the old man bug, then
Yeah.
we should be good. And even if he ends up being bit by the old man bug, then you let the kid with the howitzer come in, and then see what he can do. You know, so
Yeah.
I'm excited about the offense as much as I wanted. The offense last year to work. It didn't. It was putrid, and so I'm excited to get back to a more spread out style. A hopefully a more vertical threat style offense. Millie says, I just want Pitts.
A more modern NFL offense.
Well, okay, look, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. I really felt like the counterpunch that Smith was trying to bring in going back to that, beat 'em up style, I actually thought was going to have some success. And I think had he had, a more consistent passer, they would have. But anyway, that's a whole nother crap. All right, Millie says, I just want Pitts to be a factor he was in his rookie season. Everything else I don't really care about. Right. I want him to get back to that type of impact on the game, to where, he's making big plays and he's making, uh, game changing catches. So,
Yeah.
and I think he can do that. I really do. I really
like
think that
like
he can.
like if we end up averaging anywhere from 28 to 30 points a game, winning a bunch of games, and he ends up getting like 4 touchdowns, 3, 4 touchdowns for the entire season. But when we sit here and watch it, now you can just look at that stat line and be like, eh. But if we sit here and watch it, we're like, okay, we understand why he's only getting the 3, which is we get down into the red zone, they're putting extra coverage on him because
Right,
they're
the
worried
Julio
about
treatment.
him. Yeah, they're giving him the Julio treatment, and if that happens, it allows the Rondale Moores, the Moonies, the Drake Londons, the Bijans, those guys to get one-on-one matchups, and they're
Right.
taking advantage of it, and we're scoring points because they're so worried about Kyle Pitts that I'm going to be completely fine with that.
Right. And if it's a deal where you can start doing what they tried to do, which is like, work Pitts and London together on the same side to where, they're creating rubs and things of that nature. And it's London who's receiving the touchdowns, then like nobody's gonna care if we are getting the ball in the end zone, like was the point that you were making. Like
Yes.
back in 2016 when we went on our immaculate run, nobody cared that Julio. How many touchdowns did he even have that year?
Let's see.
You pull that up, and I'll continue making my point because the talking point was, oh, you had 13 different receivers receive touchdowns, and that had never happened before, and it's because you were able to cause so much, um, focus with guys like Julio and Muhammad Sanu that the lesser known targets were wide open. You could throw them in there, and nobody paid them much mind. Bradley is saying it was 6 touchdowns in 2016. Can you confirm or deny?
Well, for some reason, this. Let's see. Let's just do this. StatMuse failed me there.
He failed you. Huh?
Oh, here we
No,
go. Yeah, six touchdowns,
yeah,
6 receiving touchdowns, no rushing touchdowns. Yeah, so he had 6 for the entire season.
right. So King's like Smith's offense was built for KC and Baltimore and the Bills. It's to keep that a good QB off the field with smash mouth, run the ball. You still need to pass it, and we didn't have it. That's the thing is like we could run it, but we didn't have the other side of it. So Millie says either way, Jr. One of those weapons are going to have a breakout year this year. So, and
Yeah.
that's right. That's kind of the thing is that's probably the part that I'm most excited about this upcoming season. I still have my concerns about the defense as far as like where's the pressure going to come from, like how good is the scheme going to be? Are you relying on like your star pieces is Jesse Bates, AJ Terrell? So is it you know a secondary that's going to allow opportunities for the defensive line, or do we get pleasantly surprised by the young D line, or what could end up being the young D line? But on the other side of the ball, I'm really excited to see what this offense is going to do. Like, can it live up to the hype that is building with what is supposed to be the offensive genius of Zach Robinson, a Sean McVay talent that apparently spotted Patrick Mahomes before Patrick Mahomes even knew he was Patrick Mahomes.
Yep.
There's just a lot of like
Spotted him before mother and father even got together.
is that right? Exactly. And so with that being said, like, we're glossing over the fact that this guy's never called plays before,
Yeah.
in a game that matters. I think he called plays in preseason, but he's never called a play before in a game that matters. You do have a large coaching staff, much larger than what you had last year. Heck, in the QB room alone, you have like 4 or 5 guys. So, like, does all this pan out, right? Do we get the production that we're hoping to get? And then, if everything works out well in 3-4 years, we're talking about does Pitts hit the ground or Penix hit the ground running? You know what I'm saying? So that's the part that I'm excited going into this summer break. Looking forward to training camp. What are some of the things you're looking forward to? I wonder if I can find.
I mean, well, for one, I'm just looking forward to training camp. So this little dead spot that we're going into now will be over. So that's one thing. Two, I'm looking forward to. We're still going to the bends for the practice, right?
Far as I plan on going.
Okay.
They haven't released this. That's the like $5 ticket
Yeah.
kind of thing. So they
I'm,
haven't released it yet, to my knowledge.
I'm looking forward to that. But like I'm looking forward to hopefully a lot more wins than losses this year, or quite a few more wins than losses wins that we did last year. So I'm looking forward to hopefully at least 10, 11, 12 wins, somewhere in that range. And if we can win, I don't really care how. Like I don't
Yeah.
care.
Oh, okay.
I don't care if we're running through folks left and right. I don't care if we're tossing it over their heads. I don't care if we're winning it with defense. I don't care if we're steamrolling folks. If we're winning by, I don't care if we're the freaking Minnesota Vikings from a couple of years ago where they were like 11-0, and like damn near all of their games were decided like by one score,
Oh, yeah,
last
yeah.
minute.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're basically like heartbreak games, heart attack games
Well,
every
I
single
could
weekend and
use the
week
not
after.
heart attack games if you don't
I
mind.
mean, yes, could I use that? Yes, but at the end of the day, if we come out of that and we're like 11-0, 12-0, and we've had those kind of games, I honestly I don't care.
Yeah.
winning will cures all.
That's
So
it.
at the end of the day, if we're
Always.
winning, that's what I'm hoping and looking forward to. Hopefully, is more winning this year. But I'm also not going to, and I've seen some people, already, and whether it was jokingly or not. I'm not going to fly off the handle and be like fire everybody if things don't quite work out this year. New coaching staff, new everything. If you're going to give Arthur Smith at least, I'm glad that we have the coaching staff we have now. I'm glad we have the team that we have right now. I really, really am. But I was a little shocked that we got rid of Coach Smith. I thought he was going to hang around for at least one or two more seasons. I
Mhm.
think the absolute bare minimum you give a coaching staff, it has to be 3 years,
At least.
unless he goes out and kills somebody.
Well,
Okay, I
yeah. I
mean,
mean,
literally, if he kills somebody or something like that, then yeah, you got my permission to like. Well, this guy obviously wasn't good. I don't want to have anything to do with any of the coaches that he even picked because they might also be not good. So yeah, I could understand it then. But short of that, even a losing season, like I don't want. I just don't want to
like
be one of those franchises that's like, oh, we didn't go to the playoffs after not going to the playoffs for 6 years. We didn't go to the playoffs. You got
fire
1 year.
everybody.
You're fired.
That's
I
right.
don't want to be that.
I don't want to be
Okay?
the Carolina Panthers in that aspect.
Yeah, unless exactly as Bradley said here.
Unless he's
Unless
Urban
he's
Meyer. Yeah.
unless he's Urban Meyer. Like if as long as and I don't think Raheem is that, but
No.
unless he somehow turns into Urban Meyer, I don't want to fly off the handle and be like, let's say that we're 500 through the midpoint of the season or something like that. I'm not gonna be like, fire everybody.
I might. I might start firing everybody. All right. So I want to end with this. I've thought about it, and I don't have any other things to add to it. But let's do a baller and a faller
Oof.
for the early part. Maybe it's a no. Let's just do a baller and a faller for the early this early part. So I'm gonna give a baller, then you can give one, and then we'll go faller and faller. And we'll let the chat do as well. So I
Okay.
think my baller is going to be. I think I'm going to go with Kyle Pitts as my baller. Now it could be fully scripted, but everything that we've heard and seen, it seems like we're getting the rookie version of Kyle Pitts. And I do have a shirt that says unicorn on it with Kyle Pitts. So I'd like to be able to wear that shirt with some serious pride, more than just because it's my team. So right now I'm going for Kyle Pitts as my baller. In this early goings, before we break for summer and get into real training camp, who is your baller?
um, I'm gonna have to say Kirk Cousins.
Okay.
Like he's come in, seems like he's really like meshed well with a lot of the guys already. Has really come in and become the leader of the offense, like immediately.
Mhm.
And you've heard nothing but good things. Every time we see him out there, he's throwing nothing but dots. Like you know, coming back from an Achilles, the guy looks great.
Right.
So at the end of the day, I gotta go with Kirk Chains.
Kirko Chains. All right. Millie is agreeing with you on the Kirko Chains. He says baller is Kirk. He said, I don't know. I don't got a faller yet. I do have a faller, but Millie is agreeing with you on with Kirk. And I think I'll give another baller to I think I'm gonna go with DeMarco Helms on the defensive side of the ball. He seems like he has built on the end of last season, and that's saying something considering you have yet a new staff. He's having to learn, a different system. I don't know exactly how different, with there being some crossover from last year with Jerry Gray, but still, you're learning a different system and different coaching staff, and he's still able to impress. So, do you have a defensive baller?
Oof. I'm gonna. I think I'm gonna say Troy Anderson. Sounds
There
like
you,
he's come back from his injury. I've heard nothing but good things when he's been out there. To the point where I think I saw it was either a Locked On Falcons podcast or somewhere along the lines. It's kind of uh, like the key to unlocking the defense is probably going to be a guy like Troy Anderson. Like if he
right,
can come in and either really solidify the linebacking core, or he comes in as more of a pass rush guy on the edge, or something along those lines, to where he gives us some production out of that spot. But like everything I've seen, the guy like looks fast, still looks like the physical freak he is. And so I really have high hopes for Troy Anderson coming into his third year.
there you go. Yeah, the talented Mr. Ripley agrees with you. He says baller Troy. All right. um, let's see. John H says new kickoff rules. Baller Avery Williams. There you go.
There you go.
That could be. He very well could be. All right. So faller. I think my faller is going to be right now is D'Angelo Malone. Going back to a 3-4 system, he had a chance. Like you felt like there was a chance that maybe he could get his name back in the ring. We didn't take a pass rusher. We haven't signed a pass rusher. Not really. Yes, you signed James Smith Williams, but that's a different style pass rusher. You know what I'm saying? There shouldn't really be much of anybody standing in the way of D'Angelo Malone. And from what we were reading today, he's still with the. It seems like if he don't break the roster on special teams, he may not. He may not make the cut down. So initially, that's my faller.
Man, why you gotta steal my thunder?
Oh, come
Like
on.
that's exactly the name I was gonna go with.
All right, fine. I'll
Yeah,
go with my.
D'Angelo Malone. I mean, come on, like no. You keep your follow. At the end of the day, it is what it is. But yeah, absolutely. D'Angelo Malone is the guy that, like you said, uh, the guy was a decently high draft pick. He wasn't like obviously round one or anything like that, but he wasn't around 5, 6, 7. He was what, a third or fourth round pick.
I want to say he's third.
Um, yeah, so the guy, he's got obviously there is something there, but again, what we heard last year, specifically calling out guys for not putting in the effort on the practice
Mm-hmm.
field. Um, and while his name was never said specifically with regards to that, that's the feeling you got,
Oh
right?
yeah,
And
for
that,
sure.
and some of the writers obviously believe that as well. So you had that coming out of last year. You get a new staff. We haven't heard him working, as far as we can tell. He hasn't worked with the ones or even twos the entire offseason. He's
Right.
worked with threes and fours. Um, and so yeah, if he's gonna make this team as it stands right now, he's gonna have to make it on special teams.
Right.
And even then, like, is this a guy that's just like after 3 or 4 seasons now, and all you got for the best you can get out of him is a special teams guy in the third round? Is that maybe that is a guy, unlike Algier, who you're like, well, we got him for another year. Maybe that is a guy that after the season you walk away from, depending obviously, like especially if Trice and Dorless and Aurora and Ebiketie, if those guys, especially Ebiketie, if Ebiketie takes the step we think that he's capable of with more snaps, um, and really like shows out from a production standpoint, like that's just going to make Malone look even worse.
Oh yeah, for
You
sure.
know? And so at that point, it's like, okay, this guy has had every opportunity. Yeah, he's good enough to be on the team for special teams, but he just doesn't have that drive, whatever
Right.
that is. So yeah, at that point, he's got to be my follower right now.
I think another faller stays on the same side of the ball, but I think I agree with King. He says, "Nah, my faller is Grant. I think his time is up." He's
Well,
still mixing in.
but the biggest difference is you've actually heard complimentary things from the coaching staff
Right.
about Richie Grant.
Yeah. But I agree in the sense that he was a second round pick. Like
Yeah,
he should have uh you know, he should have by now solidified his starting position.
he should have. Yes.
And right now he seems like he's going into camp battling with a seventh round pick from last year. Now granted, that's props to Hellum. That's why he's a baller. But that also, in the same flip side, kind of makes Richie a faller. Like if we're going to hold these guys, in regards depending on their status of where they were drafted. Granted, that's not their, they ain't got nothing to do with that in a sense, but still, that's a metric that we use. The fact that you're losing out to a seventh rounder says a lot about you. So right now he's evolved. I'm trying to think if I had anybody on the offensive side, and I don't really think so. I mean, you haven't heard anything about Charlie Warner, but I don't necessarily think he would be right now. Um, and maybe somebody was saying something about it was Millie, I think. Let's see. Okay, he was saying, I don't know, y'all. Rondell just don't move the needle to me. They're talking about Rondell Moore.
Yeah.
And maybe we can start to have those kind of conversations. Like, what does Rondell Moore bring you? What does Darnell Mooney? We haven't seen necessarily a ton of imaging from those. Like I did see like Mooney have a nice catch.
Yeah.
On
I've seen Rondell Moore getting some play. Um, but I think he might have also been injured at some point.
I think he did have like a hamstring thing going
Yeah,
on.
some tightness. So
So
he hasn't been out there the whole time.
right,
Like obviously they thought enough of him that they wanted, they traded for him.
right.
So I don't think, that's too much to worry about as far as him
Nah.
making the team. But at the end of the day, like he's a guy that, you know, if you can find the right niche, whatever you want to call it, that
Niche.
right slot for him.
Like Dre's
Uh,
even.
yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Like,
he's saying the same thing that you are right there. Talking about someone said Moore would play a role like a Tyler Gabriel, a Anton Smith from. Like I remember having conversations with you back in the day about Anton Smith because it seemed like every time we gave him the ball, he got a touchdown. But
yeah,
then we started giving him to him more, and he got hurt. So I mean, that's
yeah, but at the end of the day, I think he's a guy that I don't expect to see. If the offense is doing, um, if the offense is doing what it's supposed to do, then I see Rondale Moore as potentially a guy that, on average, we're looking at like anywhere between 2 to 4 catches a game.
oh yeah, yeah.
But he's also a guy that, like, I think you specifically design plays to try to get him in space and
He
try to get
does
him.
he does seem more like a gadget guy. So
I don't even necessarily mean gadget guy, but I'm just saying, like, you scheme up ways so that if you happen to run across a specific formation from a team, you scheme up a play so that you can maybe audible into it or something like that, to where the way the play is ran is designed against that very specific defense so that he's left one on one and you run the rest of the defense off or something like that, and you get the ball to him in space where he can use his athleticism, his speed, his agility, all those things to really like take something like a 2 or 3 yard little crossing pattern, or 5 yard crossing or drag route or something like that, and turn it into like 10, 15, 20, 30 yards down the field, maybe even touchdown. But I think that's the kind of guy that, and then on occasion you'll have him maybe do things where he does almost like a wheel route. He's on the inside in the slot with like two guys outside of him, maybe a Pitts and a London. They go out and then run like dig routes or slants, or post routes or something like that, and then he kind of wheels out around them and
Yep.
tries to see if he can catch a guy one on one down the sideline and use his speed to really get out there. So like things like that, I could foresee as like design stuff for him. And then you got the reverses and the some of the trick
Jet
plays
sweeps
that are
and
out there, the
that
jet
kind of stuff.
sweeps, that kind of stuff. You got some of those plays as well. But I think he's a guy that you get him, you try to do whatever you can to get him in space, and when you can, it's probably going to be a good thing for you most of the time.
Let's see. King Seven. We'll take a few more comments and we're gonna start wrapping this thing up. Says because I think Trice will do well. I think he's our Grady, like our sleeper pick. I think he's going to be special. I think he's definitely got the mentality and the drive to exceed his draft station, so to speak.
Yes.
So I'm excited about Trice. I tend to agree. Tony's got an interesting pick or interesting take. He says he either thinks Taquan Graham or James Smith Williams will be released based on who wins the backup defensive end spot. Catavia Street will solidify the other backup spot in the 3-4 DN. So do you quick like on the spot, do you foresee a surprise release from anybody? Doesn't have to be one of
Um,
those guys. It could be somebody else.
I mean, as of right now, it's really hard to say, but yeah, like I could see a Taquan Graham getting dropped, but because I mean this coaching staff has no affinity towards him
Right.
whatsoever. They didn't pick him; he's not their guy, so it doesn't really matter where he was drafted. Really doesn't matter what he's done in the past. It's what are you going to do for me this year?
Right. And I don't even
And
think
so I
he was drafted by Terry. I was about to make a dumb statement as I didn't think he was drafted by Terry, but he was. He was drafted by Terry in his first draft.
Yeah. So this is his probably final year on his rookie deal. So it's a contract year.
Yep.
So maybe he shows out. But I mean, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen this year. Uh, and so we'll see. But yeah, it wouldn't necessarily surprise me. I just don't know. Uh, I just don't know if they're willing to part with him on the last year of his rookie deal.
No, they'll. I mean, it just depends on how like the guys like Dorless and Loge and all those other guys. Yes, I know they all play different positions as far as but it's like what does Harrison do and that kind of stuff. All right, folks. Well, I think that's going to do it for us today. We got a good solid hour and 25 out of this by the time we get all of it done. We'll see how it goes the next 6 weeks as far as shows. I'm not going to promise that we'll be here every week because honestly, with nothing going on, we would just end up repeating the same stuff over and over again. So we'll see how it all goes. If something happens or if we feel like we got a good topic to talk about, then we'll definitely be here. But I encourage you all to enjoy your summer. I guess I'm going to try to do that myself. And we'll be back before training camp for sure. It's not like it's going
Oh
to be
yeah.
completely dead, but
Yeah, so we're not going to go 6 weeks without a show.
yeah, definitely
Yeah.
not going to go 6 weeks without a show. I'm going to try to do what I can to get some guests on to, you know, come up with different topics and different things to talk on. But yeah, so just keep your eye locked in on the channel. I'm as always, y'all can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Grimm1128, GRIMM1128. Jonathan,
At Jonathan M. Holder, come by, say hi.
there you go. And as always, Falcons fans, rise up.
Rise up.